Don't you try to get me.
Not me, no. You're the one who wants to get yourself killed, not me. Always happens with you guys, you know? Last minute, you always want to grab onto somebody, take somebody with you. Down you go. Not me, brother.
Aren't you gonna try to grab me?
A friend of mine was up about 20 floors with a jumper a few years ago. And jumper grabbed him, they went off, and 20 floors down, just mashed him all over the pavement. Couldn't tell which legs were with which arms were with which, and it was a terrible mess. I tell you, I almost threw up myself. I'd just like your name and address, that's all.
Why?
Well, like I said, it's such a mess down there afterwards, and it makes identification impossible. Even if they find your driver's license, all that blood and everything.
I think I'm gonna puke.
Oh, now don't do that, son. I mean, all those people down there looking up, fire chief looking up his face. Phew.
Speaking of donkey, did you see there's a new Shrek movie?
Is there really?
Shrek 5. And people are really upset because the characters don't have shitty animation from 2011.
Oh.
So
I have not
everybody's
kept
really
up.
pissed about that.
I have not kept up with the Shrek discourse. Did I hear that Jenna Ortega or someone like that is playing one of the kids? Zendaya.
So everybody's mad about that. And they keep calling that character trans. I just seen a lot of that on Facebook.
Well, canonically, Shrek's kids are not black.
No, but I mean, they might be.
He could be the son of Mike Myers and Cameron Diaz.
Yeah.
The daughter of Mike Myers and Cameron Diaz.
End the woke nonsense.
This green replacement. You know? Welcome to the Perfect Movie Podcast. The podcast where we answer the question, is this a perfect movie? Wait, I'm going to do that again. Welcome to the Perfect Movie Podcast, the podcast that says, I know what you're thinking. Did he fire only 6 shots or 5? Well, to tell you the truth in all this excitement, I kind of lost track myself. But being this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your clean head off, you got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? I'm Michael.
I'm Kalen. That was a pretty good Clint Eastwood impression, I must say.
Thank you.
Yeah, you even had it like the squinty eye kind of thing going on.
Yeah, that's also because I had a cough that I was fighting the whole time.
You think that's what just Clint Eastwood has, like constantly just chronic coughs?
Well, from the amount of time he spent on screen with cigarillos in his mouth, I imagine he might have one of those hacky back of the throat coughs.
I think maybe that's just how you look when you just really hate minorities.
Because you don't want to see him, so you squint your eyes really low.
Ooh. You're like, oh, if I squint my eyes hard enough, he'll look white. Is it working?
All right, we're doing our Clint Eastwood impressions because we're doing Dirty Harry.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, it's Manly Mark. Hold on.
You were thinking about Mark Wahlberg just now?
Hey, guys, it's Manly Mark, your friend from TED 2. Guys, it's Manly March, which means ladies, get out. You're not allowed around here.
If you're a lady and you're watching this podcast right now, you better click off and watch the makeup tutorial video.
Exactly, because you're a woman, and this is man's world right now. We're in a man's world. This is what men do. We watch movies.
Also, it's warm. It's getting warmer outside. Summer's around the corner, and everybody knows summer is for the boys.
So, we're going to do Dirty Harry, a Clint Eastwood film, during Manly March, our month of watching manly movies for men. And you know Dirty Harry is a movie for men because it's a movie where a man carries a very large gun.
Yes,
That is one of the markers of movies for men. It's a movie where the main character shows very little regard for anyone else.
Yeah.
Movies for men. It's a movie,
It's like the strong, silent type.
and where their toxic traits are taken as strength.
Yes.
Movies for men.
And you just hate everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Sounds
Kaylin,
about right.
Dirty Harry. This is a film I might have seen at least parts of Dirty Harry. I feel like I remember watching parts of Dirty Harry with my father, but I couldn't have watched all of Dirty Harry because there's some parts I would not have.
Some crazy stuff.
There's some stuff I wouldn't have been able to see.
Unless you watch maybe like the TV version, the cable version.
That could have been it.
I definitely watched this movie a long time ago too. It's funny because you said you watched this with your dad, because I'm pretty sure I watched this with my dad too.
It's a big.
It was like this and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It was like we're going through Clint Eastwood films back in the day.
I knew it was movie watching time when my dad had all his shirts that he was going to iron for the next week, and he was going to prep all his shirts, and I could go down there and I could watch all manner of war flick or, a manly movie approved by Dad. Or sometimes it would be like Bay Pig in the City. But, kind of depends on how much input I had on the choice. But Dirty Harry, a movie for dads.
Like a certain generation of dad, though. Mm-hmm. A dad now, like in your 20s, 30s dad, not going to show you Dirty Harry. He's going to show you.
This is the father of the person that now shows their son Terminator.
Yeah, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Or maybe something from the early 2000s, like Crank.
Like Crank, which we'll be doing next week. A Jason Statham movie.
Jason Statham.
Dirty Harry is directed by Don Siegel.
Don't you want to know what I think about this film?
Kaylin, what do you think about this film?
This is the biggest piece of right-wing propaganda I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Wow. I'm so glad we're doing it right now, then.
Yes. It's perfect time. Because I was mentioning to you earlier, off camera, that this movie, caters to the audience of, the good old days were back in the 50s and 40s and 60s.
Yeah.
Back when Jim Crow was a thing.
Back when we weren't so full of hippies and criminals.
And colored hair.
Yeah.
And tattoos.
And long hair.
piercings.
This is back where a man could eat a glizzy and shoot a robber.
Yes. They did like hot dogs a lot back then. You know what? That's some, real psychological stuff. That's
We're getting Freudian.
Yeah, yeah. There's something with the hot dog back then.
I mean, he said, give me a big one, a foot long.
Oh, my God.
That's what he said.
He's got some repressed feelings. Let's just say that. I thought this movie was kind of boring. I liked how it looked. It looked really nice. It's it actually holds up pretty well. I was watching the UHD version, but I thought it looked pretty.
I like this film well enough. It certainly has its points where it has not aged well.
For sure.
And I don't agree with its general tone, although I do think this movie is, like you said off mic, a little bit like a Taxi Driver, where we're actually alongside a guy that we know is not a good guy.
Right. But the audience doesn't know that.
He may be the guy for this particular job, which is hunting down this Scorpio serial killer.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a Batman situation where it's like the only justification for this man to exist is if there's a crazed serial killer on the roofs.
Yeah, it's a yin and yang Joker Batman thing. Yeah.
For your everyday criminals, this man's a little unhinged to be having a cop's badge.
Yeah.
I would say you could summarize this film as Dickhead Batman is in San Francisco and he has a gun.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of Batman parallels here. He's just a single man with no people skills that will violently try to get justice his way.
But Batman, he plays both sides, though, because he could do the Bruce Wayne thing where he is personable, and he has a personality.
That's true.
So I would say he's more like Travis Bickle.
So he is more like Travis Bickle.
Yeah.
We're back to it being a Taxi Driver thing.
Yeah.
Listen to our Taxi Driver episode to hear more about Taxi Driver.
Also like Drive with Ryan Gosling. Just a very violent man on the inside, but Yeah. Let's move on to the performance test.
This is where we're going to talk about our favorite actors, scenes, characters, and moments.
It was the performance of a lifetime!
I mean, the star of the show is Squinty Clint Eastwood, the silent and violent type.
Yeah, let's take a moment to talk a little bit about Mr. Eastwood. He's in a lot of films. He's what you would call a megastar. He's like one of the pioneers of stardom, you would say. Starting off in like the whole cowboy fad of the 1950s and 60s, and he's kind of just always been that icon for these types of characters, these like lone star characters. Yeah, he's a gunslinger.
Yeah, it's really not a far throw from it. His Fistful of Dollar trilogy characters. It is that man with no name kind of. Yeah. Except he literally works for the police, but he's still just shooting.
Put a cowboy hat on him, it'd be... Yeah.
Take away
Same
the cars
character.
And put them on horses.
Same thing.
You change the trappings and the story could be identical. And it wouldn't change much. And, I mean, so much of Clint Eastwood's career is just built on the scowl on his face.
Yeah.
And
he wears that scowl well, though. You know.
And just his ability to march around silently.
Yeah. He's got presence, though, and that's what makes him intimidating. One of my favorite Westerns of all time, Unforgiven, is a kind of like polar opposite of this kind of film, where it like really talks about like the violence of man, you know, and what we're capable of. So it's kind of interesting to see later down the road he does films like that, where he kind of challenges the things that he's made before.
Well, it's funny because Unforgiven is like the start of the end of Clint, although the end of Clint has ran 30 more years.
Yeah.
But Unforgiven is him really commenting on this persona that he had for so much of the 70s.
Yeah.
This violent man that, you know, does things his way.
Yeah.
And Unforgiven is sort of, you know, breaking down that character for who he really is. But yeah. And Clint never switched up. Like, Clint rode the wave of the Westerns, but then after that, you couldn't pull him into any of the other, you know, sort of fads of the era. Like, he stayed being a star, but he never was like, I am now going to be...
James Bond.
Yeah, or now I'm Rambo. Now
Yeah.
I'm doing these 80s action movies. He didn't get pulled into that. He did, like, In the Line of Fire, and... he like found his own way to keep the same like steely persona. Like, Clint doesn't often play against type. I can't think of a movie where I've seen him kind of
I can't either. Yeah.
flip the coin on this. Like, there's certainly movies where he is more personable. There are
Like,
movies that are
Could you imagine him in a movie like Die Hard? You know what I mean?
no. Like, he's not quippy in that way.
No.
He's not fun having, and he's also like
Not as energetic either.
he doesn't like. He has movies where he's more personable, like Gran Torino, which is supposed to be like, you know, he has this hard persona and then it fades away. Like, that happens to him a lot.
Yeah.
But there's no movie where he shows up that I've seen where he's like, you know, completely playing against type and he's like whistling a tune and like acting like Jim Carrey or something.
Yeah.
You know, he never strays too far from the bitter old. Well, now he's a bitter old man, but just like the gruffness that always defined him.
For
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But Ian, this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off. You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Short summary of this film is there's a few side plots, but essentially there's the Scorpio Killer, which is this unhinged sniper that's like, you know, just sniping random innocents across the town of San Francisco. And then Dirty Harry's the man for the job. Him and his assistant, or his like deputy. And it's basically him doing his investigation, and then every once in a while he meets with the mayor and the police chief, and then he goes back to doing more investigating. And can I just say that it's really funny, and I think this is one of the things that points towards this movie understanding that Dirty Harry's not a good guy, also not good at his job. Eventually, they capture the killer, right? And I remember when they captured him, I'm like, they did no real investigating. Like, they didn't actually learn anything. They never uncovered anything. They've just kind of been, chasing a rat around a room this whole movie. And then they eventually catch him. And then they arrest him. And they're like, we don't have any evidence. We can't hold him. You held him against his will. Dirty Harry, shoots him in his leg and then refuses medical care and kind of, tortures him in the middle of this football field. And then the killer gets released. And I'm like, well, this movie does know that Dirty Harry isn't very good at being a cop.
Yeah, because then you ruin the whole investigation doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually liked that football field scene. The villain was kind of ridiculous. And our villain's name is... Let me find him. All of these pictures are in black and white, so of this cast. So it's kind of hard. Andrew Robinson is his name.
Yeah, Andrew Robinson. He's the Scorpio killer. Based on the Zodiac killer.
So you mentioned something off camera, which I thought was really interesting. This film was one of the first kind of archetypes for the cop versus serial killer movies. You could even say vigilante movies too. But this kind of reminds me of down the road, then we have Silence of the Lambs, and then you have Seven. It kind of has that it's kind of laying the groundwork for that a little bit. You kind of see some similarities, but obviously it's not as noir as those films. But I just found that really interesting because it definitely was this is cop after serial killer kind of thing, and I just found it interesting.
Yeah, I mean the performance I think has not aged super well of our killer played by Andrew Robinson, but I do think the concept was so bold at the time that you can give the film at least that credit. That it was kind of groundbreaking. I can imagine
because wasn't Zodiac Killer recently?
Yeah, this is pretty
from those times.
This is pretty ripped from the headlines.
Yeah,
and I can just imagine at that time this type of character. Some of our most famous performances are that character. I mean, he won the Oscar in Silence of the Lambs playing Hannibal Lecter with only 20, 25 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
So this archetype becomes a magnet for a lot of great actors.
The Joker
it's
in
kind
Dark
of
Knight.
The Joker archetype, I was going to say. Yeah. While I do think the performance is a little crazy, especially in the scene where he's beating up Clint Eastwood in the middle of the park.
Yeah.
That is pretty overacted, but I imagine when that's the first time you've seen this archetype,
it's probably pretty compelling.
You've seen someone act this unhinged on screen and have this type of character. I think I'm sure it was really riveting and whoa, I didn't know movies could do this. I didn't know people out there were like that.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you lift that hand once more, and I won't let you know where the girl is. Do we understand each other? Huh? Do we understand each other? Don't pass out on me yet. No, not yet. Not yet. Don't pass out on me yet, you rotten oinker. Do we understand each other? If you care what happens to the girl, you better answer me. All right. Now listen to me carefully. I've changed my mind. I'm going to let her die. I just wanted you to know that.
Yeah, that makes you think what other movies must have been like that too, because I know The Exorcist was the big one.
Yeah.
But just seeing something like that for the first time. It's got to be incredible. I don't want to go off tangent too much. My dad always tells me about when he first saw Star Wars and how mind blowing it was in the first scene when the starfighter goes over the camera or whatever it's following the rebels. He's just said it was the most amazing thing he's ever seen in his life because it was there's nothing before that. You know what I mean? It's just interesting.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
So we've entered a new contender for our most racist hero in Perfect Movie Podcast Pantheon.
We got to make a list. We got to make sure we have these guys like on a list.
I mean, he's right next to Dustin or James. What's his name? Hopper.
Oh, from whatchamacallit, yeah.
From let's come up with any of the names involved in the situation. What is it? Dustin Hopper, Dustin Hoffman,
Dustin
James
Hoffman.
Hopper. It's something Hopper. Dennis Hopper from True Romance.
True Romance, yeah.
And his racist spiel is just as great as the cheery way one of Dirty Harry's coworkers
Just starts laying into minorities.
Well, he's not racist because he hates everyone equally.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes it better.
Yeah. He doesn't like anyone. I don't know if whites were on that list. Were whites on the list?
I mean, he said anyone, so
I didn't hear him say this.
I mean, obviously not.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, so he is a racist.
Yes. I will get into this more and let the hate flow through. But I found the most concerning stuff underneath the comment sections of a lot of clips for this film. And we'll get into it more later on. But let's just say that this definitely attracts an audience. And this should be said off the bat because this movie was very controversial at one time. Mm-hmm. It probably still is to this day, as far as just like what message we're trying to convey and what messages are not being received by the audience.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of movies quite like this that are our characters are misinterpreted. And so off the bat, I just want to say that this movie was definitely of a time, and I definitely don't agree with all the politics of it.
Dirty Harry, not a role model.
That's for sure.
A real Back the Blue type beat.
Yeah. Some fascism as well.
A little bit. One thing that we do have in this film, Dirty Harry, that's not political, is apparently there's roving bands of anti-peeping Tom vigilantes. Because Dirty Harry, in pursuit of a man in a tan bag, which is all they have to go after, because he's an expert-level police detective. They're just driving the streets of San Francisco for a man with a tan bag.
Okay.
They find a man with a tan bag. They say, let's follow him. He follows him home and is like standing on a trash can looking in the window into his bedroom. And it's clearly a man like returning from business trip or something.
Yeah.
Saying hi to his wife. Not a man carrying a sniper rifle in a tan briefcase.
Right.
And just all of a sudden appears 4 large white men ready to beat his ass for peeping his Tom at, they call her like Pretty Lisa or something.
Okay.
You know, we used to be a proper society, Kalen.
We did. America used to be great.
America used to be great. We used to take the law into our own hands.
We did.
You know, like sometimes they might steal an election from you. You know what you got to do?
You got to go steal the government from them.
Steal the government from them. And wear your best bearskin hat.
And grab your best tiki torch you can find.
Or your best starched white polo.
Nice. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Find a red hat that says MAGA.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, Dirty Harry.
He's pervy Harry, really, because later in the film they're staked out on a roof, and what does he do? He tries to catch a glimpse of a threesome happening.
So he's the peeping Tom.
I know. Somebody call the police on Dirty Harry.
Where's the angry mob to beat his ass?
I think his partner does say, "I got another theory why they call you Dirty Harry."
But it's okay because we like this guy.
Yeah,
We need to bring back alternate movie titles. That's what we need to bring back to this podcast. Because there's a lot of them. Dirty Harry, Hairy.
Dirty Harry. Angry Harry.
Boring Harry.
Racist Harry.
It's just everything but with Harry at the end.
Dirty Harry Balls.
We went on a long spiel about this before we hit the record button. We should have had it record because it was gold.
Yeah, I mostly just said Dirty Harry Balls.
Yeah, and I found it funny. Anyways, the performances overall, There's a big cast, and I don't know who any of these people are. I
They're
haven't
all-
seen them in other things.
You know what?
before.
We don't have to talk about them because they're probably dead now.
Oh yeah. Everybody is fine in like a '60s type of way. We're like, nah, see,
Yeah.
nah, and like the women are really submissive and stuff, and yeah,
Yeah. No women get to make any decisions. in
no,
this movie,
absolutely not.
which is great because this is Manly March and women.
Because this ain't Dirty Diane, this is Dirty Harry, motherfucker.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes women shouldn't be allowed to make decisions. You know what I'm saying?
All right, relax.
Kidding. Just joking. All right, let's move on to our next segment.
What's this?
It's an art project.
Okay, I like it. Picasso. Yeah, that way.
It's an art, bro, where we talk about aspects of the filmmaking process, like soundtrack, sets, lighting, music, which is also soundtrack. We could talk about what kind of color shirts everybody's wearing. We could talk about whether everybody's got a cool car. We could talk about whether we think the sets look good or whether they look crappy. We could talk about whether, everything is too dark.
There were some really dark scenes.
I gotta tell you, I watched this in the middle of the afternoon, which is a mistake because there's a large portion of this movie that is in dark hallways.
Yeah, you got to draw your blinds for that one. I want to say there were some interesting types of shots that were probably groundbreaking back in the day. Some really interesting, like, pull-out shots. I'm thinking specifically the shot in the football field, and the camera just keeps going back, and you get the wide shot of the field. It looked good. Looked really good for the time.
It has to be a helicopter shot,
That's what I thought too.
but it was
really stable.
yeah, it's really seamless, and it seems
So I'm thinking maybe it was a wire.
no, I think it's a helicopter, but it's just like zoomed in maybe, so that Harry's stuff isn't fluttering, although it is fluttering a bit.
Yeah, I thought that scene looked really good. The intro scene, the classic scene where he takes on the bank robbers, that whole sequence looked really great. It's just like, it was just very vibrant, and I don't know, maybe because I did watch it in 4K, but it just looked really clean, and I was like, this is a good looking film.
It's because it's shot on film. I mean, right from the start, there's that 70s soundtrack that's got that.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, I'm in.
And you just see like sniper scopes and vivid colors. And
But
I
it's
was
the
like,
worst sniper scopes
Oh,
ever.
yeah. And I was just watching this, like, they were making real movies back then.
They were.
They were smoking cigs.
Back when America was great.
Back when
Now we
things were
make
good.
CGI garbage. Woke garbage, man.
Yeah. And movies for China.
I like movies where the only black people in it are the bank robbers.
That's when they were making real movies. Not true. There's also the dead boy.
Oh,
And his
right. Right.
So, there you go.
Check that
Check.
off. The soundtrack is great. Like you're saying, you got
All the black characters are either recently moidled or recently moidled.
either moidled by the protagonist or moidled off screen. Yeah, it's got that great 70s vibe to it. I was digging it. Definitely like brings you back to a time that I was not alive for. But it's definitely like, yeah, this scratches an itch,
It's very cozy. It's very, I can watch it without having to watch it. I can just have it on in the afternoon.
Well, you also know like this is going to be nice and tame.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even from today's standards, like this movie being made today would be like fucking John Wick. You know what I mean? It would just be chaos.
They wouldn't allow 30% of the movie to just be Dirty Harry walking down a hall with a gun out.
No. Unless it was an A24.
He's walking away from the screen. He's walking towards the screen. He's walking across the screen. He's got his gun out. Something might happen.
Back when America was great and back when people had long attention spans because they weren't, it wasn't TikTok.
In my head, the music is now all the Judge the Judy theme because I can't exactly remember the music, but it's...
Wait, no, that's Law and Order.
No. I know what you're doing.
Yeah. That's Law and Order.
And it's got the...
Yeah, it's all great. That's really all I had for It's an Art.
Fuck it. Let's go to Hey, What Are You Trying to Say? This is where we talk about the themes and ideas.
Take it away whenever you're ready.
All right, let me just get that last measurement on your
Thank you. You know, I need this for the wedding.
Okay, well,
I need it really quickly. Like
it could take about a week to do.
It could take a week.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are you trying to say? He's trying to say that I'm so big, my bum is so big, you need to order to various countries far away to get enough material to make a pair of pants so I can fit my incredibly obese buttocks into a pair of your specially made little suits.
No, I mean I'm the only one working here this week.
Oh, okay.
This movie
well, that would be
taking
great.
the law into your own hands. When the justice system fails you, what do? You sit there and wait for them to process people and to do justice?
What, do I need evidence to close a murder case now, he says?
Street justice, motherfucker.
He says, I shot him in the leg. Of course he's guilty.
He's writhing in pain. Obviously, he did it. You know, that's funny because I don't want to go off a tangent, but every once in a while I do these like factual historical things. Back in medieval times, if they were torturing somebody for a crime and the person showed like any ounce of pain, they were guilty.
Wow, it seems like an easy way to, get your
Logic, right?
very high close rate on all these medieval investigations.
This guy, we're impaling this guy's butthole and he's crying. He's guilty.
Death by quartering.
Death by Dirty Harry.
You better not cry either.
But yeah, back to taking the law into your own hands.
A lot of this plot's got a vibe of like, oh no, I got really important at my job all of a sudden. I feel like Dirty Harry.
Now I gotta work. Yeah.
I feel like Dirty Harry might actually, they call him Dirty Harry because his desk is really dirty and all he does is like sit around and eat sandwiches and occasionally shoot someone. And now it's like, fuck, I have to do me and my partner are the only two guys on the closing the Zodiac case.
Yeah.
The mayor's breathing down my neck and I shot the guy and I brought him to you and now you're going to let him go?
I have to do paperwork now.
What? He didn't get all the training. He's been on the force for like 20 years. He's like, what? Back in the day, we used to torture them, and if they cried, they were guilty.
This sounds like real life police officers. Am I wrong? Yeah, vigilante films. So there's different types of genres that we're working with that were really big in the 60s.
Can I just say, Dirty Harry, he goes a bit rogue. But he doesn't go full
vigilante.
Mission Impossible Tom Cruise rogue.
But he does throw his badge at the end.
He does.
So
what does that mean?
It means that he's done with the justice system because they don't do justice right.
He's probably just going to go back to station and be like, and the fucker stole my badge.
Yeah, I need a new badge.
Asshole son of a bitch.
I'm going to go film Gran Torino. Take my anger out on Hmong people.
I'm gonna go fight in Korea now.
Yeah, there's a big audience for vigilante movies and serial killer films. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Serial killer.
Films from this time where serial killers were like a big thing in real life too. There's a lot of the John Wayne Gacy's and crazy motherfuckers running around killing people. There's a lot of hitchhiking going on.
We used to be a proper country with proper serial killers.
Where like serial killers were getting like 30, 40 kills tops.
Exactly.
And like not getting any recourse from it. It's interesting. Interesting time. Now we have forensics and everything.
Nowadays, you lose one TikToker in the woods, and there's 8 documentaries about her.
If she's white.
Yeah. If it's like one of the massive population of like indigenous people that are
they
missing.
Go missing every single fucking day.
You'll never hear about it.
Yeah. Anyways, I just find that interesting because, it's just funny what people are into at certain time periods. especially considering like what's going on in current world events, different things that are like inspiring the media a little bit. It's just interesting to see, and you can kind of trace it back historically. So
yeah, and I also think we've moved on from like the Western to now we're getting to more like cop
modern day stuff,
which is now like, I mean, it's still the dominant genre of like television is like police and murder investigation dramas.
But at this time, John Wayne was like getting old.
Yeah.
People weren't as into the Western phase as much. Were cop movies more popular back in the 60s, 70s, or was it the 80s and 90s? Because in the 80s, you get like Top Gun.
Top Gun Air Force.
Not Top Gun. What is it? The one with Danny Glover.
With Mel Gibson? Lethal Weapon?
Lethal Weapon. Not Top Gun.
Yeah, you get Lethal Weapon, you get Beverly Hills Cop.
And then you get Die Hard. And
yeah. I think it sort of tumbles downhill from here.
Yeah.
To being in those.
And now you don't get any cop movies because everybody hates police
Everybody
officers.
hates the police.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I saw a cop in the movie. It was Long Legs.
It was End of Watch with Jake Gyllenhaal. And that one guy
and
who's
Michael
always
Pena.
named
Martinez?
Martinez, yeah.
Yeah, well, like Dirty Harry would say, beep. Redacted.
Good. Use your aggressive feelings, boy. Let the hate flow through you.
Let's just ask our final question. Or wait, let's let the hate flow through you.
Hate flow through. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the comment sections of some of these scene like clips on YouTube. It's very concerning. You get definitely an audience that is of the times, I will say. A lot of right-wing shit. You go into the comments and people are like, Clint Eastwood was right, or Dirty Harry was right. San Francisco, look at it now. You get a lot of that. It's just like, come on, people. I don't want to get too into it, but that's what I don't like, is because this film inspired that shit. And that's what I hate about it. Not saying I hate the movie, and I'm not saying I hate anything about it. Really, I actually liked it for the most part. I'll probably never watch it again. But I can't stand when people can't get the point, You know
what's interesting about that is apparently Dirty Harry 2 Magnum Force actually is a total response to this whole idea. And Dirty Harry 2 is about Dirty Harry taking down a gang of rogue cops that are serving out street justice while riding motorcycles and wearing leather jackets.
Nice.
So Don Siegel, the director, I think in particular, was kind of annoyed but kind of expected this sort of backlash and sort of the way it was embraced, even though I think he knew Dirty Harry was not meant to be this type of heroic character. He's not somebody you're supposed to idolize. He's somebody that's supposed to be complicated, and maybe you identify with him or root for him still, but you still think he has these bad qualities.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's not how it landed.
And it's funny, since we watch a lot of movies, man, and we see these characters time and time again, whether it's Travis Bickle or the guy from Drive, the Joker, whatever, where it's just like it's a melting pot for these incel guys to come in and just kind of like embrace this ideology that they all share, and they want to spread it to the world because they're lonely and they're angry,
Right.
And it's just disheartening. And I just like, it takes away from the magic of the film, the magic of the filmmaking process as well. Like, this probably took a lot of effort to make. This guy had a vision for it, and we're totally misconstruing the whole idea, and I just I wish people would use their brain a little bit more, and to not give in to just hate, and especially in times like this where it's like it's all we see, and it's just it's disheartening when it's like films are supposed to be an escape from all of this stuff, And maybe I'm looking too hard into it, but that's just the way I saw it. And I don't even want to watch a movie like this anymore. You know, it's just, it doesn't appeal to me. And I also think it's just like, we've moved on from this time, you know? Yeah.
I mean, I agree with almost all of that wholeheartedly. So let's ask our final question.
You lost a baby brother. Perfect in every way.
I had a baby brother. I had a little baby brother. And it was perfect. Perfect in every way.
Is this a perfect movie? Kaylin, go ahead.
No!
No.
I put this movie on the ground and hold up a fucking Magnum to it and be like, what did he say? Yeah, punk.
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I kind of lost track myself. But being this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off, well, you gotta ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? Is that what you would say to the film?
That's what I would say.
Okay.
And Michael, this is why you make the big bucks. You know, that was spot on.
Thank you.
I must say.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not a perfect movie. Politics aside, I think it's entertaining enough.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's not a film I will be like returning to consistently. It's a problematic thumbs up is what I would give it.
Yeah, problematic thumbs up.
Like, I can't co-sign everything that happens here, but you know what? You could watch it.
Definitely. Okay, so I will say this from a film like historian standpoint. If you want to watch films from like you just, this is one of the ones you got to see too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Same with Taxi Driver. That's a film you have to see at least once. You don't have to go back to it if you don't want, but at least see it once. Yeah. Because it's like historical. You got to check it out.
Yeah, same deal. All right, let's move along. Let's move on to next week.
Crank that out.
We're going to crank that like Soulja Boy and watch the film Crank starring Jason Statham.
Jason Statham snorts a lot of cocaine.
Isn't it?
And he has sex in at a football field. Or was it baseball? I can't remember.
He has sex in like a Chinatown market.
Isn't he has sex in the in front of a stadium full of people?
No.
That must be Crank 2.
Oh.
I think I'm getting it mixed up.
Does he do it again?
He does have sex again.
That does.
And the crowd is like cheering him on, man.
That does sound like something that would happen in Crank 2.
And he's like, yeah. And the girl is like, yeah, give it to me.
Crank 2, crank it.
Wank it. Wank 2.
Wanka.
Wank.
Wank 2. That's probably
That's definitely the porno version.
I mean, this movie is kind of the porn parody of itself.
It is.
All right, we'll cover Crank next week. Dirty Harry, we're going to put it in the ground. We're going to say, I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth in all this excitement, I kind of lost track myself. But being this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, it will blow your head clean off. You gotta ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
You should do the Kylo Ren quote where it's like, let it die. Bury it if you have to. From The Last Jedi.
I think the quote I know most from Kylo Ren is when he goes, Do you remember that one?
I do remember that quote.
And he starts slashing the wall, and then the one guy comes around the corner, and he says,
he's like, oh, turn really? That's that Disney comedy for you.
You love Star Wars. Zoinks. Not at my workplace.
Relatable, right? When your boss is freaking out.
LOL. That's me at work. That's me. See you next week.
What?
Let the past die. Kill it if you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be.